Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into an absolutely fascinating breakdown of our own evolutionary history. Specifically, we're going to explore a thrilling historical paradox. Comment nos ancêtres ont survécu? How exactly did our ancestors survive in a world that was literally out to get them? By digging into the data and the archaeological records from our source material, we're going to unpack how early humans managed to stay alive when everything around them was basically a killing machine. Okay, to really get this, let's put ourselves right in the middle of a scenario from the source material. Picture this. You're walking through tall grass 100,000 years ago. The sun is setting, you hear something move behind you, and as you turn around, you catch the reflection of two yellow eyes in the fading daylight. You are being stalked by a cave lion, a massive 700-pound apex predator that's twice the size of any lion alive today. And you are completely unarmed. No gun, no knife, literally not even a sharp stick. It brilliantly illustrates our terrifying underdog status back then. Just think about the mismatch. On one hand, you have our human physical traits, flat teeth, completely useless nails, and we basically couldn't outrun or outclimb the danger. On the other hand, the cave lion, 700 pounds of pure unadulterated muscle, massive claws, and lethal teeth. We were severely outmatched against monsters built specifically to hunt and kill. So the crucial point here is that by every single biological measure, we should be extinct. We were completely unequipped for the ancient world. And that begs the ultimate question driving this whole explainer. How on earth are we still here? How did we survive when everything else was built to destroy us? Well, to understand our survival, we really have to accept our reality back then. For millions of years, we were emphatically not the hunters. We were the prey. The source material highlights this heartbreaking, yet pivotal 1924 discovery by Raymond Dart in South Africa. He found the skull of an early human ancestor, a child, only about 3 years old. And tragically, punctured directly through the eye sockets were two holes, perfectly spaced to match the canine teeth of a leopard. This child wasn't the victim of an accident. They were prey. The sheer scale of the nightmare we faced everywhere we migrated was just staggering. These predators had spent millions of years perfecting how to hunt large mammals. You had the saber-toothed cat, Smilodon, with 11-inch canines, ambushing out of the tall grass at 30 miles per hour. Over in North America, you had the short-faced bear, standing 12 feet tall, weighing 2,000 pounds, and running at 40 miles per hour. And don't forget cave hyenas. They hunted in coordinated packs of 20 or more, and they hunted at night, right when early humans were basically blind. To really put this physical mismatch into perspective, let's talk about bite force. A cave hyena packed a bite force of 1,100 pounds per square inch. I mean, they could literally crush solid bone just to get to the marrow inside. Compare that to us. A human's bite force is a measly 162 pounds per square inch. We could barely chew through tough raw meat, let alone defend ourselves against those kinds of jaws. And honestly, the disadvantages didn't stop there. We were biologically doomed. We lacked the strength of a chimpanzee, and by the way, chimps are 3 times stronger than us and still get killed by leopards. Our night vision was poor, our hearing and smell were just mediocre, plus walking upright basically acted like a giant neon sign on the plains, broadcasting our location to every predator around. Oh, and our babies, they screamed constantly and couldn't even walk for the first year of their lives. So part 1, the first weapons, our survival arsenal. Let's look at how our ancestors actually started to build this arsenal. Because despite every single one of those biological disadvantages, the predators are gone, and we're the ones still standing. Our very first game changer wasn't actually a spear, it was controlled fire. Archaeologists found evidence of this dating back 1 million years in Wonderwork Cave, South Africa. Burned bones, ash layers, hearths, the whole shebang. Mastering fire essentially created a 30-foot diameter safety zone. Predators were, and honestly still are, biologically hardwired to avoid fire. For the very first time in our history, we had light when we couldn't see, we had warmth for our hairless bodies, and we finally had a boundary that let us sleep without having to hide perfectly motionless in the dark. But it wasn't just about keeping the monsters away. Fire gave us incredible compounding benefits. Because we didn't have to hide the second the sun went down, fire gave us 3 to 4 extra hours every single night. That was the gift of time. Time to make tools, time to plan, time to just talk. And crucially, it let us cook. Cooked meat is way easier to digest and gives you far more calories. And those dense calories, they were exactly what we needed to power our rapidly evolving problem-solving brains. And those bigger brains led us right to our second weapon, endurance.
Look, we were never going to outsprint a saber-tooth. They hit 30 miles per hour in seconds. We max out at 28 for very short bursts. But we could sweat. Because we could cool down while we were moving, we developed this terrifyingly methodical strategy known as persistence hunting. You don't chase at full speed. You just track at a jog. You follow the animal for hours. It runs, it overheats, it has to stop to pant, but you just keep it moving until eventually it literally collapses from heat stroke. Humans are the only species on Earth capable of doing this.
We also started using our brains for pattern recognition. It was like a giant puzzle. We began tracking the predators the exact same way we tracked our prey. We learned their schedules. We noticed saber-tooths prefer to hunt near water at dusk. We learned cave lions avoid fire, and that those massive short-faced bears are highly territorial but usually solitary. We observed, we remembered, and then we passed this vital knowledge down through generations, effectively outsmarting animals that relied entirely on physical instinct. But physical tools, fire, and endurance running, that was just the start. Which brings us to part 2, the ultimate weapon, the power of empathy. Because as you'll see, our most powerful weapon wasn't physical at all. It was profoundly sociological. It turns out, the real weapon that saved us was each other. In 2001, archaeologists unearthed a 1.8 million-year-old skeleton in Dramamine, Georgia. It was an older human ancestor who had lost all of their teeth years before they actually died. Now, in a brutal ancient world where no teeth meant you couldn't eat raw food, this person survived for years. Why? Because someone else in their group was purposefully keeping them alive. They were either chewing their food for them or cooking it until it was soft enough to eat. There's this quote from the source material that really hits the nail on the head, and it's so profoundly touching. A lion with no teeth dies. A human with no teeth gets taken care of. This reality is what separates us from every other species on the planet. We didn't just cooperate out of cold, hard biological instinct. We actually cared for our vulnerable. And we see this happen again and again in the archaeological record. Take Shunetter Cave in Iraq. Researchers found a Neanderthal skeleton from 60,000 years ago. This guy had a healed broken arm, he was blind in one eye, and he had severe arthritis. Yet, he lived to be about 40 years old. He couldn't hunt, he definitely couldn't fight, but his community protected him and kept him alive anyway. That is a level of empathy absolutely no apex predator possesses. That kind of deep empathy fostered advanced communication and strategy. Unlike wolves who hunt in packs purely on instinct, early humans hunted with assigned roles. We used language to communicate complex plans, like driving animals toward a cliff while others waited below to cut off the escape. And around 400,000 years ago, we crafted the Schoningen spears in Germany. These were aerodynamic, balanced wooden throwing spears that let us strike from 30 feet away. Just 5 humans with spears and a solid plan could systematically take down a saber-tooth. Which leads us perfectly into part 3, the master hunter, flipping the dynamic. Because this right here is where the story completely flips, forever altering the balance of power on Earth. We stopped running, and we became the hunters. As humanity expanded out of Africa about 50,000 years ago, moving into Europe, Asia, Australia, and the Americas, a really undeniable pattern emerged. Everywhere we went, the megafauna started disappearing. Cave lions, extinct 14,000 years ago. Short-faced bears, gone 11,000 years ago. Saber-tooths, vanished 10,000 years ago. The greatest killers the world had ever seen vanished from the fossil record shortly after we arrived. We outlasted them, we outthought them, and ultimately, we eliminated them. It really all comes down to evolution's gifts. Predators relied on static advantages, things like speed, strength, venom, camouflage. But evolution gave us dynamic adaptability. Every single biological weakness we had just forced us to invent a solution. Couldn't outrun a short-faced bear? We threw spears from a distance. Couldn't see in the dark? We made fire. Couldn't outbite a hyena? We strategized in groups. Our adaptability completely outpaced their millions of years of specialized predatory evolution, mainly because we could learn from our mistakes and teach the next generation not to make them. Which brings us to a final, incredibly powerful thought to leave you with today. For 2 million years, we hid in trees and we ran from shadows. But knowing that our immense physical vulnerability is exactly what forged our greatest strengths, our intellect, our empathy, our community, we have to ask ourselves, what impossible challenges can our shared knowledge and adaptability solve next? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this changes how you view your own history.